So guys, the crypto markets are still crashing. We're waiting for the markets to open up, and the markets were not looking too good on the opening bell today. And overall, guys, we have been seeing a Black Monday, and a lot of people are talking about the price action on Bitcoin, Ethereum, where we could be going with Bitcoin dominance and USDT, and exactly what you need to know if you have altcoins. But if you're new to my channel, go and check out the rest of my content. I'm an intermediate trader documenting my journey, showing you guys my wins, my losses, keeping you guys updated on the day-to-day events, price action on Bitcoin, altcoins, indicators like Bitcoin dominance and USDT dominance to understand how liquidity shifts, and overall exactly what you need to know for your altcoin portfolio. Altcoins, guys, have been getting shreked these past few days ever since the huge crash ever since Friday. And overall, we've been seeing the aftermath, and we're anticipating the markets opening up today and pretty much the red in the markets. Exactly the price action on Ethereum and Bitcoin are really going to let us know exactly where we're going to be heading in the next few days. So I want to give you guys exactly that perspective, what's going on with the US markets, as well as exactly a broad perspective on when more than likely we're going to be seeing more positive price action in the markets. But with all that being said, let's go and jump into it. So guys, like how I said, the crypto markets are crashing down quite significantly. Bitcoin sitting at around 79,000, seeing a little bit of relief from yesterday, of course, sitting at around 78, 77. Ethereum's currently sitting at around 1559, which is more in the red. Ethereum's doing quite horrible compared to Bitcoin right now. Altcoins, guys, have been getting squeezed these past few days quite significantly. My portfolio seeing a little bit of green on the 24-hour, but for the 7-day, a lot of these assets are down horribly, and I'm sure you're aware of that. Indicators around Bitcoin dominance and USDT are pointing to the fact that liquidity is shifting back into these bigger assets, which is really squeezing our altcoins and could be anticipating even more dips for our altcoin portfolios. Bitcoin dominance is on the verge of breaking that 64 zone, already getting and touching that zone. USDT as well, sitting at around 5.8%. Gonna break that 6% potentially. Overall, just a minute has given us a few different perspectives around USDT dominance, what we saw back in February, and a little bit of relief for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and exactly where we're seeing with the price action around Ethereum, which we're about to cover. But overall, guys, today we did see a lot of capitulations, a lot of red, a lot of sell-offs in the market. Crypto Mitch now puts it all together in a quick little synopsis. Black Monday ends with Bitcoin at 79K, NASDAQ up only 0.15%, gold down 2%, many altcoins outperforming Bitcoin. That's a great Black Monday. And Patrick or Crypto Intelligence X talked about exactly the losses that we saw in the market today when the markets opened, and then a little bit of relief just to see a little bit more losses in the overall markets. And this is just pointing to the fact that liquidity looks completely different than other cycles. He goes on to say today the S&P 500 lost 4 trillion in the first 15 minutes of trading, gained 2 trillion in less than 10 minutes over fake news, and then lost 1 trillion in 15 minutes. Trillion is the new billion. Get used to it. Those numbers will only get more ridiculous in the next decade. And this is pretty much pointing to the fact that, guys, how liquidity is moving around now is not comparable to previous cycles. We're seeing a lot of different, integrations with countries, with corporations, and all these other different people scooping up Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is really pointing to the fact that this is a different state. But right now we're seeing a lot of red due to the tariffs and uncertainty in the markets. And right now, guys, you really need to understand exactly what's going on with all that stuff. Benjamin Cohen has been keeping us updated with pretty much, the unpredictability in the markets, as well as how these assets are having an effect on specific industries and exactly what you can be anticipating. He goes on to say the only way to durably kill inflation is to bring asset prices down. The tricky part is doing so without inducing a recession. And he also talks a little bit about pretty much some tariffs that are going to be going into effect, and exactly the reciprocal tariffs and more volatility. He says, the markets certainly need more volatility. Trump additional 50% China tariffs effective April 9th if China does not withdraw 34% tariff by April 8th. And there's just a whole bunch more, guys, based off of exactly these threat-ins of these tariffs. And at the end of the day, this is where you really need to keep an eye on the market and understand how sentiment shifts. I think this is another great post that Benjamin Cohen has right here. The sign of a mature investor is when they can admit when they are wrong about something. The ability to own your mistakes helps you become a better investor. Making excuses to rationalize why you had the wrong view will likely just cause you to make the same mistakes again. And I talked about that in one of my previous episodes, talking about exactly the price action for altcoins and when we could be seeing that liquidity, and exactly what I anticipated and how I was, a little bit wrong in terms of that timeline. And a lot of crypto traders and investors are, but this is where you need to start keeping up with the macro price action and then compare it to a broad perspective and understand how to navigate that. And now, pretty much in terms of the indicators around USDT dominance, Justin Bennett had talked about this and pretty much the huge wick that we saw back in February 27th, which was, the giant wick playing in this region. But overall, Justin Bennett talks about the specific zone and exactly what he was anticipating. He says the top of this USDT.D channel is where I was looking for some Bitcoin relief, which was right on the mark. Now I'm watching this short-term trend line for clues about the next move. If Tether dominance breaks down this trend line, we will probably see the HTF imbalance near 4.5%, which means Bitcoin and ETH shorts will get squeezed. So if we see USDT dominance start to break down to this region, more than likely we're going to see a lot of shorts in the market that are trying to bring down Bitcoin and Ethereum get squeezed out. And as you can see with USDT dominance, we are starting to, play up actually into a different zone. So this is where, if the breakdown starts to occur, we could start to see a little bit of positive price action, but it's super key to really keep up with these zones and see exactly if we're going to be deviating. And you need to keep yourself aware of this stuff, and we do it on this channel, so make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Now, in terms of the price action around Ethereum, right now, guys, Ethereum has been breaking down for a while, and we've been waiting for, a switch up in the price action, a break in validation. And right now, based off of a specific trend line that a few specific crypto analysts and investors are looking at, it is starting to look a little bit like we have hope, but we need to reclaim that 2150 zone, 2200, to pretty much break the previous resistance zone that we had, so that we could potentially shoot up back to that 2800 zone and retest that region. But this is where we need to keep up with how the U.S. markets are pretty much anticipating exactly what's going to be happening moving into the week, and how the crypto markets are going to be affected by all of that jazz. But overall, guys, this is super key to understand exactly where we're going to be going, and also the price action that you want to be aware of. So pretty much the price action around Ethereum hitting that 2100 zone, and also keeping an eye on USDT dominance to really let us know exactly if the shorts in the market are going to get squeezed or if we're going to be deviating much lower. Like Crypto Mission now talks about, we pretty much said how the Monday went, and right now it's not looking too hot, and as a result we have been seeing some crazy deviations in the market. Like how I said, my altcoin portfolio is not looking too hot, and the overall crypto markets in general are not looking too well, and it's just because of all the uncertainty that is taking place in the markets right now. CryptoCon talked about a long-term perspective with the S&P 500, the corrections that we see, and right now we're in a specific zone that we have seen previously, and more than likely we're going to be jumping out of this within the next month or so, pretty much based off of the corrections that we saw in 1957 to 1990. They only lasted about a few months and took us down about 20%. The correction right now is currently sitting at around 18.5%, so it kind of makes sense. And this is where you can get a long-term perspective as opposed to a macro lens to really understand exactly how we have seen this in previous timelines, as well as overall exactly what we could be seeing in the next few months. But guys, overall, swiping everything to the side, this is where you need to start keeping up with that price action on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin dominance, USDT dominance, to sentiment in the markets, how the US markets are being affected, tariffs, all of these conversations that are taking place, and then from there have an understanding how your altcoins are going to be affected. I talked about it yesterday, guys. If you have altcoins, what you need to be anticipating and exactly what you should be thinking as well. And it's pretty much pointing to the fact that yes, we are seeing some crazy deviations, crazy sell-offs. Projects are going down quite significantly, but as long as you're invested in strong projects that are building for the future, the moment Ethereum has a new all-time high and we see liquidity shift back, all the coins under Ethereum that are actually building with strong promise of actually, integrating with Web3 technology and all that good stuff, we're going to see these projects rip exponentially. But you have to have the diamond hand mentality. You have to understand exactly how liquidity shifts and believe in what you're doing. But at the end of the day, this is where I tell you guys, if you're new to the channel, go and check out the rest of my content. I'm an intermediate trader documenting my journey, showing you guys my wins, my losses, keeping you guys updated on the day-to-day events, price action on Bitcoin, altcoins, how liquidity is shifting, and exactly what you need to be aware of. Right now, I'm really keeping up with the price action on Bitcoin and Ethereum, seeing how the week is going to be closing, and then from there, determining how I want to allocate. I told everybody, do not allocate until the market's open, and as a result, we saw some crazy deviation, so I hope you waited. But I'm keep you guys updated on everything you need to be aware of. If you guys have any questions, suggestions, any perceptions on the market, what do you think is going to be happening? Should you be buying altcoins? Should you not be buying altcoins? What are you currently buying? And exactly, overall, what your next step is. I really love to hear everybody's perspective on the markets, what your questions are, and exactly where you're at in your journey. But I drop daily content every day, so stay tuned, guys. This is a wild time. You need to lock into the markets, and I promise you, if you do, you're going to be well off than a lot of other people in the crypto space. Stay tuned. I drop daily content every day, so hopefully I catch you in the next one. Peace.